There are over 10 million online searches each month for information regarding domestic violence in just the US and Canada. Anyone, regardless of gender, sexuality, race, or religion, can experience abuse. Domestic abuse isn't always physical violence. It can be emotional, verbal, even financial. It can feel isolating and hopeless. For victims, it often takes several attempts to escape an abusive partner. There are many reasons victims are often afraid to reach out for help, including embarrassment or denial, or fear of losing their children or pets. But if you're experiencing abuse, you're not alone. It's not your fault. Help is here for you. domesticshelters.org is the leading domestic violence online resource where abuse victims and survivors can find everything they need to take steps towards safety, all in one place. With domesticshelters.org's searchable database of domestic violence programs and shelters in the US and Canada, anyone can find a nearby trained advocate who cares, along with support and resources. Victims of abuse may not be ready to connect with an advocate yet, but with domesticshelters.org's comprehensive library of relevant and high-quality content, it's simple to find information that can help change lives for the better. Domestic violence professionals and advocates rely on domesticshelters.org for ways to better support their local communities through free online expert-led training, award and grant programs, donation tools, and other powerful resources. The profound impact of domestic violence hurts everyone. Victims lose hope, children suffer lifelong trauma, communities are permanently damaged. That's why millions of people come to domesticshelters.org to get the answers and help that they need, and why 8 out of 10 domesticshelters.org visitors share their newfound knowledge with others, exponentially increasing public awareness of abuse. Your support helps connect those millions of victims and survivors of domestic violence with the resources they need to identify, escape, and heal from abuse. If you aren't sure where to turn, we're here to help you feel safe again, wherever you are on your journey. Please visit us at domesticshelters.org.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started here. Oh, shoot, about 10 seconds. So everyone get settled in. All right. Excited to see a big sign up for today. We had over 1,000 people registered. So we're expecting to have a very full house today. All right. So my name is Ashley Rumschlag. I am the National Director of domesticshelters.org, which is a program of Alliance for Hope International. I am joined by Rachel Myers, our Senior Digital Services Specialist, and Hannah Craig, our Director of Content, who will be monitoring the chat and Q&A throughout today's presentation. We are so excited to be hearing from Karianne Gwynn and Joy Johnson. They're going to address an important topic when it comes to healing from trauma. And today we're going to have about 60 minutes together. This webinar is made possible by Verizon's Skill Forward initiative, which provides free skill building courses and professional certificates to people across the US. You can learn skills like coding, leadership, project management, and so much more. They're all online and at your own pace. Users who sign up through the Alliance for Hope do get access to 100% free courses for an entire year. And because of Verizon support, we're also able to provide webinars such as this one today, one-on-one coaching with Karianne, a Facebook support group, and Telegram channel to connect you with other learners who are going on the same journey as you to upskill their lives. And so we can help you and the people that you serve overcome barriers to achieve your educational and professional goals. Everyone over the age of 17 located in the US is eligible to take advantage of the Verizon Skill Forward program. And we encourage advocates to share this program with your community as a way of bringing hope to survivors. If you missed our webinar on the Verizon Skill Forward program, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, we will drop a link in the chat where you can watch the recording. And also we'll drop a link in the chat to the interest form, which is the first step in getting connected with the program. And if you have any questions, you can contact Karianne directly at skillforward@allianceforhope.com. Take a look, that'll all be in the chat if you are interested. So just here's a quick look at all the different programs that are part of Alliance for Hope for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with our work. So we have the Family Justice Center Alliance, the Training Institute on Strangulation Prevention, Camp Hope America, of course, domesticshelters.org, the Voices Advocacy Network, and the Justice Project. If you'd like to learn more, please visit allianceforhope.org. We do have closed captionings available for today's webinar. To enable, please click Show Captions. We'll also provide a transcript within a week of the presentation. And just a reminder, this is a Zoom webinar, so you're in listen-only mode. Please use put your questions in the Q&A section and use the chat to connect with other attendees, keeping in mind that you want to make sure that you select everyone so everyone can see your messages, unless it's directed specifically just to the hosts and the panelists. We will send a certificate, transcript, recording, additional resources, including the slides. We'll send those to you within 1 week of today. Two quick announcements. We do have another webinar coming up. We're really working hard behind the scenes to pull this all together for you all. As you may have heard, we have launched Hope Chat on domesticshelters.org. And with that, we've learned a lot about how AI can serve victims of domestic violence. So we're hosting a webinar on April 17th. So a Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We are talking about leveraging AI to support domestic violence victims, talking about the opportunities, risks, and tools for professionals. So we hope that you'll join us for that webinar. We'll be joined by our technology partner, By the Pixel, that brings all the wonderful online resources and digital tools that we create at domesticshelters.org to life. And we'll have a link to that in the chat. And then finally, if you haven't already registered, we would love to spend some time getting to know you and seeing you in person at the upcoming International Family Justice Center Conference. It's not just for people who work at Family Justice Centers. We have certainly information about if you're interested in starting the Family Justice Center framework in your communities, but it's really for anyone in the domestic violence space that wants to expand their knowledge on things like strangulation. Domesticshelters.org is going to talk about some more specific marketing tracks, but we're also going to have a panel on post-separation abuse. So Rachel will drop a link in the chat if you're interested in looking through the course list so you can get an idea of what we cover at this conference. All right, so really quick, I want to introduce our speakers today, and then Karianne is going to start us off. Karianne Gwynn is the Verizon Skill Forward Project Coordinator. Over her 10 plus years of work with survivors, Karianne has been the founding director of Camp Hope America. She is also a certified yoga teacher and holistic nutritionist. Her passion for whole person healing has been born out of her battle with cancer and her own healing journey. Joy Johnson is a birth 3 specialist, providing support and training to early childhood educators, including parents. Joy has been in the early childhood field for almost 20 years. She is passionate about breaking generational patterns of violence by supporting parents and educators to be trauma-informed. Welcome, Karianne. We're so excited to have you here to kick things off.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this topic. It's a topic that I am so passionate about and absolutely privileged to be able to share with you all today. If you are comfortable and able to safely close or lock the door of whatever your room you're in, this would be an amazing time to do that. The reason for that is that we are going to be doing some physical practices that you just might not want other people to see you doing. So if you're able to do that, privacy would be great. Often we can allow ourselves to just relax a little bit more when we don't need to worry about other people seeing us. So first of all, when we created the title of this webinar, my immediate thought was, oh man, there are going to be some people who are riled up about this, because to say when talk therapy isn't enough, it's very controversial. So I want to start this by saying I currently go to therapy and have gone to therapy for many years in my life. I've gone to many therapists for many reasons. Talk therapy with a great therapist can be absolutely life-changing. I've learned so much about how to identify and name my feelings, and it has been and continues to be a wonderful place for me to just let it all out, and is a really important part of my own healing toolkit. But the thing is, this form of therapy, it can help us recognize patterns of dysfunction, verbally process emotions, and so much more. But talk therapy is not meant to be the end all be all of healing, because we live in more than a brain. We live in bodies, we live in minds, we have a spirit. Every aspect of our being is impacted by life around us, including impacted by trauma. In my own life, I have often walked away from therapy feeling a huge release, because crying my eyes out for the better part of 50 minutes absolutely helps release that emotional pressure. And it's so, so helpful. But I was often left with the question of, well, what now? I have a week or sometimes two before I go and see my therapist again. And what am I supposed to do in between sessions? The positive impact of that emotional release would last for a while, but then I would feel my body get pulled back into the same patterns of anxiety, depression, and an overactive stress response. So what's more is that I got to a place of really feeling like I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about this stuff. I want to do something about it. I want to move it out of my body. For many years, I lived in this angst of not being able to make the type of progress that I wanted to make. And that's when I realized that something was missing. So by becoming a certified yoga teacher and eventually a holistic nutritionist, I learned so much about the nervous system. And what blew my mind was how the physical processes in our bodies are impacted by the state of our nervous system. So on the next slide, you're going to see a picture of me in what was a Halloween costume. I was G.I. Jane, but gastrointestinal. That's why the digestive system is drawn onto me. So I want to break this down for you. In a perfect stress-free world, this is how digestion works. You're so relaxed. You smell food. That's why bacon is on the screen. Your brain begins to engage. The senses are working. Saliva increases in your mouth. That saliva actually contains salivary amylase, which is a digestive enzyme that helps break down carbohydrates. So in a perfect world, you would sit and eat said food. You're chewing fully. You're connecting with other people. And all of this together increases digestive enzyme production. And the enzymes are what help break down our food so that we can actually absorb it. And after you chew and you swallow and do all of that, your food would drop down into your stomach, which is nice and acidic, and that breaks down the food even further. That food would then move into the small intestine, where the acidity present actually triggers the release of digestive enzymes from the pancreas, as well as acid neutralizing compounds, so that you're not burning holes in your small intestine. Obviously, that is not good. All of this happens. We're designed for this to happen so beautifully. This is the cascade of digestion. After that, I'll let you use your imagination. We all know what happens after we swallow our food and it gets digested. But what about when we're in a state of stress? That is not what happens. In stress, we do not bother to smell our food, because who's got the time? We do not bother to chew our food, because again, who's got the time? And our bodies quite literally are wired in a stress state to believe that we are running from a saber-toothed tiger. So there are all of these non-essential survival bodily processes that go offline. Digestion, not important when you're running from a saber-toothed tiger. Hormones, not important when you're running from a saber-toothed tiger. The same goes for immune function and so many other processes. So you can understand why this would go awry. Even with just the food example, let's say that you are in a state of stress. There's so many reasons why we could be. And the food, you're not really chewing it. You're like, oh, whatever, I'm just swallowing my food. It lands in a stomach that is not very acidic. Well, we now know that we need the stomach acid to be able to break down the food. We also need it to be able to trigger sodium bicarbonate, to neutralize it, trigger digestive enzymes releasing from the pancreas. And when those processes are not happening, things get a little messy. When the food is sitting in your stomach and you're in a stress state and it's not being churned and burned by that acid, it starts to rancidify and putrefy. And I know that sounds disgusting, but bear with me. When that happens, it's like it gets a little bubbly in there. And I think most of us have experienced acid reflux. And the reason that that's happening is that the stomach acidity is not acidic enough to kind of open that trap door down to the small intestine, but it's too acidic for the esophagus. So when it bubbles back up, it burns us. And these are the types of things that happen when we are stuck in a stress state. We are not meant to be stressed all the time. The rushing of our culture is wildly unhealthy, and a lot of us are living in the consequences of this. There is a very fascinating concept that has absolutely changed my life called polyvagal theory. It helps us understand the way that our nervous system is at play in all of this. It was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. So, polyvagal theory explains how our nervous system responds to danger and threats, and also how it responds to safety. Our brains are constantly looking for safety via a process called neuroception. So, we're always looking, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I safe? Am I safe? We might also refer to this as hypervigilance. That's more the overactive version of neuroception, whereas the just baseline process is I'm just looking, am I safe? Okay, I'm good. I'm going to keep going on with my day. At a foundational level, to break down polyvagal, poly means many, and vagal refers to the vagus nerve. This is also known as cranial nerve 10. It begins in the brainstem and then travels down into the chest cavity and abdomen and is largely involved in the function of the heart, lungs, spleen, gastrointestinal tract, liver, and kidneys. So when you hear that, you're like, oh my gosh, many of you might not even know you have a vagus nerve. This was a completely new concept to me. When we understand the impact that the vagus nerve can have on all of these processes, we realize how important it is, because when it's working well, it is the MVP of a healthy, high functioning body. And when it is not functioning well, we feel it big time. In polyvagal theory, the vagus nerve is described to have 3 branches. So to talk through this, I want to take a look at this visual of a ladder. This was originally created by Deb Dana. I also want to give a huge shout out to this amazing nervous system rewiring coach, Sarah Jackson. I have taken her class. She does a Zoom class once a month on multiple occasions, and she has taught many somatic or physical body-based practices to help rewire the nervous system and create felt safety. She talks about the polyvagal ladder and describes it this way a lot. So I don't want anyone to think, wait, that sounds like Sarah Jackson. This is largely Sarah Jackson. I have learned so much from her. So at the top of the ladder, we have the ventral vagal state, also known as ventral vagal presence. This state of the nervous system, we are safe and connected. We're connected to ourselves, we're connected to others, and we are experiencing psychological safety. And when you are a survivor of trauma, psychological safety is a very hard thing to come by. And it might even be that you could be listening to this, I don't even know what psychological safety feels like. The story that feels the most true in ventral vagal presence is, I can do this. I have what it takes. I got this. In this state, you might feel calm, you feel connected to other people, you feel present in the moment. That lizard brain of being all over the place, it's not happening. We're just exactly where we are. We might experience curiosity in your body. The sensations or experiences that you might notice are you're breathing a little more deeply, you're making soft eye contact, you're at ease. The purpose of this state, because every state of the nervous system has a purpose, the purpose of this state is engagement. It's to laugh, it's to learn, it's to build relationships. It's largely to build relationships that can hold us when we go into sympathetic activation, when we start to feel stressed out. We need the ventral vagal presence to create our network of support. And this is such a beautiful state to be in. And in today's world, this can be the exception and not the rule. But let's just sit with this for a minute. I want you to imagine a time when you have felt this, when you have felt safe and connected, at ease. Maybe take a moment and just sigh it out. I had a moment like this recently with a friend where I thought, oh my gosh, I feel so good being with this person. I feel fully myself. I'm not putting on airs. I don't feel like I have to perform. I get to just be me, and I'm so loved and connected. What a gift. So take note of what that feels like in your body. When I'm guiding you through this process, this is called nervous system mapping, and we're going to go through each space of the polyvagal ladder so that you can know, okay, this is what this feels like in my body. Next time this comes up, you'll recognize what state you are in. The next state is sympathetic activation. This is a little further down on the ladder. Most of us know this state very, very well, a little too well. The story of this state activation, sympathetic activation, is I have to do something now or else. It's that urgency. Urgency lives here. Like, oh my gosh, if I don't deal with this, this is going to happen. It is a very stressful state. And so many of us, that's our baseline. That's where we're functioning all the time. It's exhausting. Cortisol is super high in your body. It can feel like anxiety, restlessness, racing thoughts, anger, fear. Like I said, hypervigilance is a huge part of this state because we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, oh gosh, what's going to happen next? When I hear people who say, oh, just my luck, I'm like, oh, they're living in sympathetic activation when we're expecting the bad thing to happen. And then in your physical body, things you might notice are a fast heart rate, tension in your muscles, high blood sugar, which you're not going to necessarily feel that. But for people who are diabetic or who wear a continuous glucose monitor, you might notice that in times of stress, your glucose is actually spiking. We also notice maybe shallow breathing or chest breathing, like that kind of thing, and even cold hands and feet. And the purpose of this state is action. If you were to be running from a predator, you would need a fast heart rate to pump more blood through your body because blood carries nutrients. It carries that glucose that you need to be able to have the energy. You would need tension in your muscles to run or to fight. You would need your blood to be flowing to large muscle groups so your hands and feet would become cold. And maybe you even want to touch your hands right now. My hands are a little bit cold right now, and I'm recognizing that. I'm not judging it, but I've been hustling this morning and I'm feeling that in my body. I'm feeling like this activation energy. The thing is, this is a protective state, so it is not bad. It is needed, just it's not needed all the time. This is the state in which digestion, immune function, hormones, they go offline. For a true survival moment, which our bodies think that we're having on a regular basis, those functions are not necessary. So when we look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, you can understand, oh, I'm a caveman living in a modern world, and my body thinks I'm running from a saber-toothed tiger, even though I'm stuck in traffic, or even though my kid is saying, Mom, 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 100 times in 1 minute. How is it possible? I don't know, but it happens. Those functions don't matter because the body and the brain are in a survival state. When you hear about this state, do you have certain situations that come to mind that you're like, oh yeah, this triggers a sympathetic activation for me? It could be conflict with a loved one. It could be traffic. It could be feeling trapped. It could be seeing someone that looks just like that guy that did that thing, and all of a sudden we're back there. We're mapping the nervous system. We're recognizing what each of these states feels like in your body because it's going to be different for everybody. And when we do that, we can more easily recognize these states when they happen. So then we go further down the ladder to dorsal vagal shutdown. The story of the nervous system here is I cannot handle this. That phrase that people say, I can't even. That's the phrase of dorsal vagal shutdown. It is complete immobilization. And we know this state, right? I can feel it in my body just thinking about it. I can imagine myself in moments when I felt that way. Emotionally, it can feel like numbness, disconnection, heaviness, fog. In our bodies, we may notice a slower heart rate, low energy, disinterest in the things that you once loved. Are you picking up on the fact that depression lives here? Dorsal vagal shutdown is closer to depression than a brother. They are tight. This, though, also is a protective state. And when we aren't able to escape the stressor, eventually the body shuts down to protect us. Imagine an animal playing dead in the presence of a predator. Like, maybe if they think I'm dead, nobody will mess with me and I'll be safe. We are animals too, and we do that same thing involuntarily. As you hear this, though, I want to bring your attention back to the fact that sympathetic activation and dorsal vagal shutdown are protective. So, knowing this, I want you to just allow yourself some compassion. We don't need to fear these protective states. We don't need to shame ourselves for being in these places. We needed them at a time, and we will still need them from time to time moving forward. The problem is when we begin to live in either of these protective states chronically, when these become our baseline, that becomes an issue. Imagine that you're on a beach. You've got a shovel. It can be a big shovel. It could be one of those cutie little plastic shovels. You push your shovel through the sand and you've got a fairly shallow trench. The more that you go back and forth with that shovel, the deeper that trench is going to get. Eventually, you would find yourself in a trench that was so deep that you can't even see the top of the sand. This is what happens when we stay in a state of sympathetic activation or shutdown for too long, or we go there repeatedly. That protective state becomes our MO. It becomes so familiar that even if we do experience connection or ventral vagal presence, it's just a flash in the pan, and then we get pulled right back into sympathetic activation or shutdown. Does this sound familiar to anyone? It's this concept of the neurons that fire together, wire together. This is the gist of neuroplasticity, is that the more that we think something, the more that we do something, the more habitual it becomes, the harder it is to break out of that. But the good news is that there is neuroplasticity in the other direction. So when we feel safe, we climb the ladder toward ventral vagal presence. When we sense danger, we climb down into sympathetic activation. When we feel trapped, we might even go further down and drop down into dorsal vagal shutdown. And then there also is a blended state that's in between sympathetic activation and dorsal vagal shutdown. And we know that more as a freeze or fawn response. It's the feeling of, I need to do something or else, but I also am immobilized. That tension is the worst way to feel because we're like, I know I need to move through this and I can't. That is the state that a lot of people find themselves in, and we've likely all been there. So what the heck are we supposed to do about this? So I want you to understand this. There is constantly communication going back and forth between the body and the brain and the body. So often we try to think ourselves into safety or breathe ourselves out of stress, but we can't, because the vast majority of the communication actually goes from the body to the brain, not the other way around. It is estimated that 90% of communication between brain and body is going from body up to the brain. That is wild. And that is exactly why somatic practices or body-based practices must be a part of the healing journey. If you walk away with one thing sticking in your brain, I want it to be this. So if you were like kind of zoning out or checking your email, come back to me. We create felt safety in our bodies and nervous systems by giving our bodies positive or even neutral sensation. That is it. Positive or neutral sensory input. I'm going to show you that underneath on my lap, I have the softest blanket in my home. My son and I joke that it's called the 100 bunnies blanket because you just feel like you're snuggling with 100 bunnies. This is the kind of input that we can give ourselves to help create safety in the body. And soft clothes, gentle touch, slow movement, all of these things help create felt safety in our bodies. If we practice these on a daily basis, your baseline won't be that trench of sympathetic activation and shutdown anymore. You will be creating a new normal for yourself. You're using that practice of neuroplasticity to make it something that's better. You will find it much easier to come back to baseline of ventral vagal presence, which is the safety and connection after moments of stress when these practices are more consistent in your life. You will find it much more accessible to climb the ladder up towards safety and connection, even when you've been in dorsal vagal shutdown or stuck in sympathetic activation. My goal is to help you feel in your body what these practices can do. I want to invite you into a containment hug. So you're going to take your right hand and you're going to stick it in your left armpit. You're going to take your left hand and you're going to place it on your right shoulder. This is one of the practices. It's called a containment hug. It is a way of physically protecting your heart space, which communicates safety to your nervous system. This is one very simple practice that you can incorporate into your life. So I want to go somewhere really familiar, back to sympathetic activation or the fight or flight response. Remember, you're an animal. We are all animals. One thing that animals do after they've escaped a predator is that they go somewhere safe and they shake their bodies. Okay, at this point, Ashley, will you stop sharing your screen? I want you to be able to fully see what this looks like so that I take up your whole entire screen. Thank you. This shaking is something that has likely happened to you as well. Sometimes it happens to us after really intense stress or a big T trauma where our life was in danger and we're noticing we're shaking uncontrollably. Your body, that is such a beautiful thing that your body is doing to help offload that stress. So I want you to join me in just starting with shaking your hands. And as you do this, you can get like really weird about it. As you do this, I want you to pay attention to what this feels like in your body. Start moving your arms now. It's okay if your arms jiggle, mine too. We're all humans here. But what you might notice is that now we're moving to shoulders. What you might notice is that maybe your ears pop, maybe you want to yawn, maybe you want to shake even more intensely. And I want you to do that. Whatever you're noticing the invitation is in your body, I want you to do that. And then we're going to like go crazy, like shimmy, get your torso involved, maybe start shaking your legs. Oh, okay. I know that this looks insane. I really hope that you're doing it with me because this is such a valuable, valuable practice. Okay, so we're going to, in 5 seconds, keep shaking, but in 5 seconds, we're going to stop and be completely still, okay? Shake as much as you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Be still. My body wants me to put a hand on my chest right now. Take a big breath. And notice the sensations that are happening in your body. Notice the state of your mind. You just offloaded survival energy because you've been storing that up from the times that you were stressed, from the argument with the spouse, from the traffic, from the bad feedback from a boss, whatever it is, those threats, we store them in our body unless we get rid of them. And I'm not trying to say that one moment of, oh, we're shaking is going to solve all your problems, but this is one small practice that is accessible to you for free that you can do on a bathroom break. I mean, if you're like me, I'm pretty shameless. So even if I'm out in public and I'm like, whoa, I'm feeling stressed, I'll start to do that. And people they probably think I'm cuckoo. And honestly, I don't really care. In the words of Taylor Swift, shake it off. There is a reason for that song. It works. Sympathetic activation is our protective state that needs action and movement. So things like going on a fast walk, do push-ups against your kitchen counter, punch the air for 30 seconds. I grew up in the age of Tybo and Billy Blanks, and I can just hear Billy Blanks being like, give it all you got to give. And sometimes I need to do that. You can lift weights. When you do this, you are releasing the cortisol that has surged with stress. And another way to signal that it's okay for your body to kind of shift out of the sympathetic activation is by lengthening your exhale. We're gonna try it together right now. I'm gonna lean back against my chair. Usually I sit up nice and straight, but I'm leaning back because this is giving my body what's called proprioceptive input. Proprioception is our brain's ability to recognize where we are in space. When we make contact with the boundary of our body, it helps our brain to know, oh, this is where I am. I'm on a webinar with you. What a gift. I'm not in all of these stressful moments that replay in my mind. So I'm leaning back to give my body some pressure and some more proprioceptive input. You are welcome to close your eyes if you want to, though it is absolutely not a requirement. I love to do hand on the chest and one hand on my abdomen. The reason for this is when we're in the stress state, the chest breathing happens. When we're in more of a ventral vagal, connected, rest and digest state, we will more naturally belly breathe. So I want you to try to focus on breathing with your belly. So we're going to breathe in for 4 and out 2, 3, 4. In for 4, out for 4. In for 4 and out 2, 3, 4. Now let's lengthen the exhale a little bit more. When we make the exhale longer than the inhale, it helps shift our bodies. Now we're going to do 4 and 6. Inhale for 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think we're ready for the challenge mode. Is 4 and 8. In for 4, out for 8. In for 4, out for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In for 4, out for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoa, I feel better. I hope you feel better. So what about when we're in shutdown though? In the protective state of shutdown, mobilization feels impossible. So we need to offer kindness and we need to start small. I was in this place recently and I've done these practices so much that I'm super in touch with my body. And I just kept thinking, all I want is to lay down right now. Like my body needed the safety of the fetal position. It's also a protective state that animals go into, that humans go into. So I did that in my bed and I repeated to myself, because I had triggering thoughts were coming up. I repeated to myself, you weren't safe then, but you are safe now. When we give ourselves this compassion, it changes things. I mean, I started tearing up just now, even thinking about it. I wasn't safe then, but I am safe now. And I had my 100 bunnies blanket and I set a timer for 10 minutes and I just kept repeating that to myself. I was breathing, I had my blanket up to my face. I wasn't safe then, but I am safe now. I am safe now. I allowed myself to be immobilized for 10 minutes and then I slowly started introducing movement. So are you hearing a theme here of positive and neutral sensation? The blanket, the breathing, the self-touch. This is how small it can be. This is how little it takes to resource your nervous system and honor the wisdom of your body. So let's get back to the containment hug. Right hand in the left armpit, left hand on the right shoulder. And I want you to just gently rock yourself side to side. You can close your eyes if you want to. This is a great time for affirmations to come in. And it can be anything that's relevant, resonant to you. One of my favorites is, as I breathe in, I am safe. As I exhale, I am loved. It speaks to such foundational needs that we have as humans. And I want to invite you to say it out loud with me because we're all muted, right? We're all rocking ourselves back and forth. I am safe. I am loved. I am safe. I am loved. Another way to bring our nervous systems up the ladder from dorsal vagal shutdown is singing or humming. So this one's gonna sound wild, but I'm gonna do it for you. The syllable VU. Okay, so I'm gonna take a big breath in. You can do this with me if you want. I'm holding it. I could have held it a little longer, but we're on a webinar, so I'm going to wrap it up. You hold it, go as long as you can. That's the long, long exhale. Also, what it is doing is stimulating the vagus nerve and helping that vagus nerve become a little bit more toned. I really think Buddy the Elf was onto something when he said the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. You don't have to necessarily sing loud, but I will do this in my car. Well, you do. Singing loud is helpful. You don't need to let other people hear you, but the singing loudly or humming, those noises, they are all helpful in the vagus nerve. I feel better. I hope you all feel better. We've been talking about a lot of grown-up stuff when it comes to nervous system regulation, but kids have nervous systems too. And so many of you and your clients are walking through trauma and also have these precious beings that are watching you and you're working to co-regulate with them. And so we're going to transition to that. We have the privilege of having Joy Johnson with us this morning. When Joy and I first met, it was obvious immediately that we needed to host a webinar together. Joy is a birth through 3 specialist, and she works with parents, educators, caregivers that are walking through trauma. Joy, thank you so much for being with us. We're really excited to learn from you.
Thank you, Karianne. I feel so relaxed. I don't know how I'm going to get through this presentation, but thank you so much. I am glad to be here. Unfortunately, I'm having video troubles. It may pop in and out, so hopefully I can see you guys soon. But if not, you guys saw my picture. But I'm excited to be here. As a birth to 3 specialist, I work a lot with young children specifically with trauma, like in the Head Start centers and other centers as well. This is something I'm really passionate about. So I'm happy to be here with you guys to talk a little about trauma and working with parents and what we can do to help the little kiddos. So understanding and helping children overcome trauma, huge, big topic, but we're going to narrow it down a little bit today. So just want to give you a definition of trauma. Trauma is not an event itself, but rather a response to a stressful experience in which a person's ability to cope is dramatically undermined. This is from the Infant Toddler Trauma Informed Care Project from Duke University in North Carolina. So what all that is saying is that trauma is something that we probably all experienced from a time from another. And in children, it is very hard for them to deal with. I can't talk about just trauma. I have to talk about the adverse child experiences. So ACEs, if you have not taken that assessment, I really challenge you to do so to learn more about yourself as well as your children of what maybe they have experienced or children that you do work with. Certain events can have that trauma response, abuse, neglect, violence, anything that can make that child feel unstable can promote that trauma response. Just a little statistic here, about 64% of adults have experienced trauma. And again, that is that childhood from 0 to 17. They've had those many experiences or several experiences with trauma. So with children, they have big emotions and little bodies. So we must create a safe environment for the children and allow them to have a voice once they have experienced trauma as well. All right, so we are looking at the brain and trauma. Karianne kind of talked about it a little bit, but we're going to focus on the kiddos with the trauma. So as you see in the picture on the left, this is trauma, how it can cloud the brain. So we can have all these good things going on. We got family, friends, we're doing things. Your children may be in sports. But when trauma comes about, there's many different emotions that can come about as well. That sadness, the guilt, the anger, shock, fear. And then as that is happening, the body has a response as well. So with the little children, they feel that fight, flight, and or run away or freeze mode. They are trying to protect themselves from danger. So that's why we see these many responses. So when you see that child that is in that fight mode, you can see them yelling, maybe lashing out, they're stomping, they're kicking, they're clenching their hands, they're ready to argue. You can think about a tiger fighting another tiger. They're in protective mode. That's what they want to do is fight and get that emotion out. In flight mode, the child may run away. They're restless. They're not sitting still. They can feel trapped. They're breathing rapidly. They might be having that feeling of, I got to get out of here. They might even say that. You can think about a little bunny running because they are being chased. So they are trying to just get away from everything because that is what their body is responding and wanting to do at that time. When we see them in that freeze mode, the child can become overwhelmed, fear, struggle to even respond when you're asking them questions. They may not be able to speak to you guys. They feel very disconnected, numb. You may ask them questions and they say they don't know. And in that moment, they really don't know. So an example would be like a mouse being chased by a cat. They're just freezing up. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. So a lot of these emotions are happening when they're in flight freeze mode. As adults, as Karianne talked about, we can experience those things as well. All right. So for trauma, the behaviors, you can go back to the next slide, the previous slide. Behaviors we can see. So again, we kind of talked about that flight, fight, or freeze, that aggression. They're raging. They could be throwing things. They could be screaming, running and fleeing. We talked about verbal abuse. They may be saying different things to you guys, things they don't mean, but of course they're in that mode, and so they're just saying a lot of different things. Self-isolation, screaming, like loudly screaming, even crying because they don't know how to get those emotions out. Hiding from people. You've seen children maybe run over, if they're in school, run behind the desk or at home, running behind the couch. They're just trying to get away. Becoming threatening. They may kind of lunge at you, wanting to get aggressive. Just loss of self-control. They have no control of their body. They don't know what's going on. So they could be just flopping around, laying out on the ground, having a whole tantrum. That's what the behaviors we can see. And or avoidance. They're not saying anything to you. They're just wanting to be left alone. You can't get them to say anything. You can go to the next slide. All right, so internally, there are some things that we cannot see as children experience trauma. So they may be very nervous. They feel very tired, exhausted. You might see them, they're sleeping more. Inside, they could feel trapped, feeling guilty of things that may have been going on around them. Mommy and daddy are fighting. Is it my fault? I feel like it could be my fault. They're scared. They could have heard yelling, things being thrown around, insecure. They don't feel like as if they are performing well in school. They don't have the confidence to do so. Angry, rejected. Dad might have left. Mom might have left. They feel it's abandoned, alone. They can feel easily embarrassed by things, judged because of what may have been going on if they don't want to tell other people. Unloved, that's a tough one right there. We always want the children to feel loved, but at times when trauma can happen, they may feel unloved, like no one cares. Frustrated, they're worried. Little ones can get worried. They're worried about what can happen to me, what can happen to mom, what could happen to dad, my sibling. They could feel attacked as if everything is coming down on them. With such little bodies, they could feel like the world is closing in on them. Shameful, disrespected. We don't think that little children can feel as if they have been disrespected. Us as adults, of course, people can say things, situations can happen, and we feel disrespected. Children can feel the same way. And then helplessness. There's nothing they can do. In a lot of situations, children do not have control. So they feel that sense of what can I do? I can't do anything. So they feel out of control and they don't know what to do with those emotions. You can move on to the next one. So as a parent and or caregiver or someone that is trying to help parents or children navigate things, you're like, how can I help in that moment? So in that moment, don't dismiss their anger. Let them understand that you know that they're angry. I see that you're angry. I see that you have these big emotions. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what you're feeling. Let's put identifying emotions to these feelings. You're so young, you may not understand that when I start to clench up, that I'm mad, I'm angry. We don't know how to get those things out. So as adults, we need to help children understand their emotions. Help them breathe slowly and deeply, as Karianne has perfectly done earlier, talked about that slow breathing. Children need to do that as well to help calm their nervous system, to calm them down. Clench and unclench their fist at each tension. So I know you can't see me, guys, but I'm doing the same thing right now. I'm clenching my fist and then unclenching it. That helps to release that tension. That can help the children as well when they're feeling those big emotions. Having a place to calm down. So if they're at home, you have a soft little area. It could be not even their bed. It could be a little spot in their room where they have pillows. They have soft things. As Carrie Ann talked about that blanket, they may have a favorite blanket, a favorite toy that they can go to and hold on to when they are experiencing those things with trauma or having those episodes where they can go and they feel safe and secure. Decreased stimulation. This is a big one. As an adult, I don't like a lot of overhead lights. I don't like a lot of bright lights. So as these little kiddos are getting overwhelmed and crying or getting overly upset, make sure that you have a calm environment. Maybe lowering the lights, maybe just having soft lighting. If there's TV going, maybe you have the TV on low. Maybe you have some soft music playing for them to help decrease that stimulation so they don't feel so overwhelmed. Plants are a good thing. I love plants. So with children, you can do these things with them as far as them having soft things in their rooms, things that they can go to when they're feeling overstimulated. Sensory bottles. We'll talk a little bit about sensory things in another slide, but having sensory things for them to pick up and look at. The fidget toys and things were a big thing. Sometimes little kiddos need things to hold in their hand to make them calm down or make them feel safe. I used to have this little soft thing I call warm fuzzies. That was something that a child would hold when they felt upset. They could just hold it. It was very soft. They loved it. They would keep it all throughout the day. And that's something that would comfort them. Also try redirection. So if you have a child that's screaming, yelling, can't regulate themselves, maybe they're into dinosaurs. You give them their favorite toy in that moment of, hey, let's go over here and play with this toy. That may help them to calm them down in that moment because that's getting their mind off of what emotion they're feeling, but they're able to project it to something else and help calm them down. As they're playing with that toy, we can talk about your emotions and talk about how you're feeling in that very moment. A big one, avoid physical punishment. As parents, it's a lot of heightened emotions when things are going on, and some want to resort to the physical punishment. We want to not do that, and that we are teaching the children that physical violence is okay. So they may express that as in school and other areas in their life. So that is one that we want to avoid. I know in generational things, even in my own family, that was something that was used. But now through research and as far as just going in through different things and trauma in my life, I understand that is not the way to go. We want to teach other things for the children as far as emotions, how to deal with these emotions, so that these little ones can become self-regulated adults. I always say when I see as an adult someone acting out, they did not get that self-regulation as a child. So we want to make sure that we are teaching these children self-regulation so they do become adults that are prosperous and know that physical violence is not okay. We'll go to the next slide. So some emotional regulation activities. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, that deep breathing exercise, putting your hands on your belly and making sure that you are taking those deep breaths in. When you're dealing with trauma, as I was in therapy before, I didn't even think about this, and this is good for little children as well. Make sure you're breathing. Children, when they have those big emotions too, you know, you've heard a child like, oh, they're crying and they can't get it out, and they're trying to take a deep breath and they can't get it out. So you as adults, we have to teach them of how to take those deep breaths in. With children, I like to do the analogy or say, smell the cookies, you're taking a deep breath in and then blow the soup. You're taking that deep breath out. That gives them something to focus on, something to do. They love to smell the cookies. They know what that means. And they have to blow the soup to cool it off. So those deep breathing exercises really help to help regulate their emotions as they are going through the trauma. Physical activity. Children have a lot of energy, way more of us as adults. So if they need to go outside running, they need to jump, they need to throw a ball. In the instant they're mad and they want to throw things, let's go outside and throw a ball. Do you need to throw a football? Do you need to throw things down? Give them something to focus that anger on as they go outside and getting that physical activity. Even rhythmic movement, dancing is another fun way to get that anger out. Drumming, like I said, running is another way too to calm that nervous state when they do have a lot of energy. Even a simple exercise ball, them getting on that ball to move back and forth, that can help them as far as getting that nervousness out as well. Quiet time, we kind of touched on that as well. Sometimes children just need to go in their room, have their own quiet time, nothing's on. They may just be laying there with their cozy little blanket, favorite little toy, and that's all they need. Or maybe they take a step outside. They're listening to nature. They're just outside on the porch. They're hearing the birds chirping. They're just hearing that silence and really with that nature to calm them down. Sensory activities. This is another one. When working with children, you see the lava lamp. So you can make these little sensory bottles with water and putting glitter in it. They like to turn them up and down. They could see the glitter fall. That helps to kind of calm them down. A fish tank is another good one. I love that as an adult. Just sitting there looking at the fish tank with the lights in there, the fish is going around, that helps to calm me as well. And also doing the activity of 5 things you can see. So when that child is in that state of just no return, 5 things that they can see. They got to look around and note 5 things that they see. 4 things that they can feel. Do they feel the softness of their bed around them? Do they feel the hardness of that Lego toy that's right there beside? 3 things they can hear. Do they hear the TV playing? Do they hear the dog barking or something else that's going on in the background? 2 things they can smell. Do you smell the children smell you making dinner? Do they smell the scent of a candle that you have burning? There's things that are around them they can smell. And then 1 thing that they can taste. Maybe they have a water or a juice right next to them. They drink that and they can taste that and feel that in their mouth. That gives them that time to censor down as well. And then journaling and writing and or coloring. That is another good one. For little kiddos, coloring is a good one and drawing to get their emotions out. As they get older, can read, write, and do the things. Journaling is a great one. I've learned to do that as well. And then working with children, doing it side by side with them. They love the coloring and that you are involved in that activity too can be a way to help regulate their emotions. Next slide. All right, so active commitment. So when you are working with these children and or if you are a parent, the big thing is to be consistent. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a lot of times where you're gonna have to constantly do the same thing over to enforce the rules and things that can happen to help them set clear boundaries. It will take time, but it will be worth it. Children feed on that structure and having that environment of I know what's coming next. So trying to keep their schedule as clear and consistent as possible would be very beneficial for the children. Praise positive behavior. This is a huge one. Even celebrating little wins, just their effort. Immediately when they do something, make sure to praise them. Don't just say good job. Say, I love the way you cleaned up your toys so quickly. I appreciate that. Just little things like that are giving them that feedback, that positivity that they need in that moment. So make sure you do it in the moment and not doing it later on because they need to know that praise right then and there when they do that. And also with that positive body language. So you could be smiling as you're giving them that positive praise, giving them a hug, a pat on the back. So not only are they getting that positive language, you're getting that positive body touch as well. And then observe your child. Pay attention to what situation or events seem to trigger their anger. So you're going to know your child best and or the child you are working with. So making sure you're making sure those noises and things that do trigger them that you do know what they are. It could be slamming doors, it could be somebody yelling, it could be simply a tone of someone. Certain smells can trigger a child as well. Places, people, or things, clothing can all these things can be possible triggers. And knowing what those triggers are can help you as well when working with that child. Talk about it, discuss the potential triggers with the child, and help them develop strategies to manage them. So again, we've talked about that like deep breathing, maybe they need to walk away to a quiet place, grounding themselves by doing those exercises, listening to music sometimes soothes children as well when they are going through things. And then avoid or prepare for triggers. So if possible, try to avoid situations that are likely to trigger anger or prepare your child for them in advance. Sometimes you're not able if they have to see that unsafe person, if that's their dad, mom, or whoever, just preparing them that you're going to see this person. These are things we can do. We've talked about deep breathing. We've talked about ways to keep you calm, to prepare them of what's to come. Children, like I said, like routine and like to be consistent. So preparing them if something is going to be different in the routine is very good for them so that they'll know what to expect and they'll know better to handle that situation. Next slide. And this is a quote that I really like, and I'll read it out loud and then kind of give you guys some feedback on it too. The reaction of the parent, both verbally and with body language, can be one of the most important factors in de-escalation. For most interventions to be successful, the adult must remain calm, even though the child is not. We can't control everything that the child says or does, but we do have control over is our own reactions. So with this quote, you want to make sure that you remain calm. I know as parents and as caregivers, you have a lot going on as well. But the children can sense when you're upset and frustrated. So trying to remain calm, um, having that time in which you are practicing that self-care so that you can be the best you for that child, making sure that you're giving yourself grace. Of course, no one is perfect. We're not saying that, but trying to remain calm will in turn help that child in that situation so that they are better to deal with their emotions as well. So you remaining calm is showing them the desired behavior that you want them to possess, as well as they're going to calm the situation at hand as well. All right, that was a lot in a little bit of time, but I did want to give you guys the overview of how trauma can affect children. They, like I said, they're little, but they have such big emotions and so many things that we can help them with during that time. And the more you know about trauma, the more you are informed about that and the rules and the way you can regulate that with them the best. This is my contact information. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching sessions, please contact me. I am available. And thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Join Karianne. We are right on the dot of our time today. We have about 40 seconds. So we don't have time for Q&A, but I chatted with Karianne and Joy ahead of time, and they said they would take a look at some of the questions that you all have asked, and we'll send that out in the resources if there's any additional information that they're able to provide. But thank you all for coming. Hopefully you feel relaxed and ready to tackle the rest of your day. I did want to make one observation that when we planned this webinar, we're really focused on survivors and how these strategies are important for survivors to know, but also, the direct service providers to be able to help them with these strategies. But of course, you all reminded me of the importance of addressing vicarious trauma too. So glad that we were able to spend this time together today. And thank you to Karianne and Joy for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We will have a recording, slides, transcripts, certificate of attendance, and like I said, all the shared resources. We will send those to you within 1 week. And just a reminder, if you're calling in today, so you didn't log in on the Zoom app or desktop app, please email us at info@domesticshelters.org just to let us know where we should send these materials. With that, we'll go ahead and conclude today's presentation. Thank you, everyone.